Hi, and welcome everybody. I'm so excited to be here with these amazing friends, and I actually consider some of them family, sisters and brothers that I have met along the path and the journey. And I think we're all super excited to be here. Poor Linda, it's very early for her. And now, now that I'm location independent, living as a digital nomad, I'm starting to see the world in a different way because I was used to being on the West Coast. And now I have a lot of empathy for meetings starting early coming from the East Coast. But as I go around the world, I will find all kinds of new adventures. And that's why we're here. We're here to talk about your adventure and our adventures. And, in the last 18 months, I always thought I'd have physical children, but instead I had triplets. And I wrote these three books in the last 18 months. I don't even know how people have triplets. I can't hold three of them. So for anybody who's had like a lot of babies, it's really kind of interesting to see what's possible. And I will introduce everybody in a minute, but I just want to give a little overview and set the tone for this morning, and really look at having an organic conversation here, and also inviting you to ask questions and participate as well, because the books were written for us to help people transition right now, because I am a strong believer that we're on a timeline split, that we have people who want to get back to normal. We have a lot of division, a lot of sides, a lot of people who want to be right and wrong. And then there's a growing group of people that are stepping out of the current stories. And it is a really exciting time in human history because so much is possible. And there are people doing amazing things in education, in mental health, in regenerative agriculture, in fashion, in every aspect of the world. And yet we don't hear about it. And the purpose of the book was to help us understand that good and bad, right and wrong, appropriate and inappropriate were constructs that we inherited or we created. And now we're stepping into this other timeline where anything is possible. And the most important part is knowing ourselves and knowing each other in a way that isn't prescribed by society, that we start understanding what's healthy and what's unhealthy for us, not for anyone else, and start really stepping into our power of how we want to live a healthy life and what's possible. And I have to say that so much is possible. And I have always loved technology because here we are in conversation, and each one of us is in a different place geographically. But I just feel so connected heart to heart with everybody who's on the call right now, which is super exciting. And I wanted to kick it off by just reading something. What happens with these books a lot is that I open it up, and I have other people who've read the book say, like, I picked up the book and I opened it on this page and it totally changed my life. And that's the point, is that there's no formula of how you're supposed to experience them. You might want to start with the third book or the second book or the first book. I did write them 1, 2, 3, so that's how they appear. And it's super exciting right now. I've also partnered with High Tide, which runs virtual book clubs. And at the beginning of each month, you have the opportunity to sign up either as a participant or as a host to run a virtual book club and really internalize what's in the pages of the book to your own life and to your own experience. And I will open this up for conversation after I read this, to have everyone on the call share a little bit of where they are, and how this body of work resonates with them, and how the books have opened their hearts as well, or not. Anything's possible, and all comments are appreciated, because the most important thing right now is to be able to question everything. So I opened this morning the first book, F the Bucket List for the Soul. Discover the Wonder of You, on page 74 of the hardcover. And this is what the universe wants to share with you. There is a balance in everything. Being positive and staying in balance is a powerful energy source, but being programmed to fixate on the positive and disregard the whole gamut of what it means to be human is a constant reminder of what we're missing and what we lack. It is not very useful, as each one of us is a bit imperfect and has lessons to learn throughout our lifetime. It's kind of funny when we really stop and think about all the programming that we've been exposed to and how hardwired it has made us not to question the source of these beliefs. We are powerful beings, and no box is strong enough to keep us in a tightly structured system that controls and limits us. You already hold the key to discovering your path and authoring your story. Up until now, this little known fact that has been kept secret from the majority of the population, no one teaches us that we hold the key. Yet to find the key that will unlock our minds and hearts, we must be ready to answer the question, am I ready to take impeccable care of myself and be fully responsible for my well-being? Tim, how are you today?
Great, as I get ready to head to chemo right after this. One thing that, as you were reading that, it reminded me of the Japanese term wabi-sabi, which I learned from reading a book called Wabi-Sabi Love. And it talked about the beauty and the imperfections, to sum it up simply. And for me, I think that's what those words mean to me is we can, it talks about looking at the imperfections in other things or other people. But for me, it's like embracing the imperfections about me and knowing that that's what makes me unique and what I have to offer. And a lot of times I think we're conditioned to believe that we need to fix our imperfections. And I think there's a great sense of for me, peace, I guess is a good word, that comes over me when I fully accept the imperfections as part of what my unique gift is for the world.
I love that. And I know that for you also, with the past year has been more than unexpected.
Just a little bit.
How have the books, if at all, played a role in helping navigate your journey?
It's something that there is, it's a very individualized and personal journey that we're each on. But what the books have done is taught me to understand that there's other people going through their own journey. So I'm not alone on my journey. And I think that's what the books to me have taught me the most, is that there's this whole community across the globe that can be supportive, that you can support them. And it's how do we find them? How do we connect with them? How do we support each other in our own unique journeys without trying to fix anybody, and I think the books to me really resonate with the fact that there's no formula here. There's no prescribed method. There's no one way to do this or one way to do that. There's each of our own paths that we need to discover, but as each of us are on our own paths, we're kind of on the same or similar journey together. And that is, I think, the biggest takeaway I've had from the book is just how much differences we can have, but how many similarities we can have.
Wow, thank you. I think also, like, when you experience the book, you go, like you said, like you go on your own journey and really be able to explore what's possible for you, because it tries to be a companion and a guide for you on the journey. And Linda, your book, Trusting the Currents, was a huge guide for me. And I'm grateful to Tim because he introduced, I love the connections of how this has kind of emerged, because, one day Tim told me about you and your book, Trusting the Currents, and I read it, and it totally not only transformed me, but it's also part of the triplets I have Addie Mays, who's the main
Gratefully.
character, in all of the three books, and so I'd love to hear kind of your perspective of things and your experience as well.
Well, I was so relieved actually to even know these books existed. I mean, I've been on this conscious path for a very long time, as anyone who knows me knows. And for most of that time, I was alone, and there really weren't books. You know, I could barely find people, and there really wasn't any kind of written guidance as to what I was experiencing as I was changing the way I thought about myself and the world and the future. So when I met you, and then you started writing these books, I've been a big part of that path, and so grateful, because it was. Oh, I can't tell you like what a relief it is to open up someone else's book and read words that resonate so deeply within my own personal experience and make me feel that, I actually was never alone in the journey, even though at times it felt that way. And each of your three books are, for me, very different. I mean, like I said, I've been on this path a long time. And the third book totally resonated with me because it really did speak to that part of me that had been searching for a long time for people that understood the way I felt and the way I thought. So I think it was a very I think these books have been companions, and that's why I like to give them to people, because for anyone that actually is beginning to question, is the world the way I thought it would be? Is my life the way I thought it would be? Or maybe you're just having a full-blown awakening experience and realizing that nothing is the way you thought it was. It's scary, because you're generally, when you go through this experience, you're generally alone. There's not a lot of people around you that understand you. And it really helps to have something to turn to that will kind of give back the information that you're getting from yourself. And I think these books do that. And they did that for me, even though I've been doing this a long time. I remembered myself, particularly in the first book, just being that person who was beginning to see things differently and having nothing that reflected that. And this book really reflects that beginning part of the journey. And each of the three books really kind of take you through different stages of your journey to, I like to call it awakening, because that's what it feels like when you get to the other side, that you were sleeping and all of a sudden you're awake. But the process of getting there is not easy, and it can be lonely.
Inappropriate.
So, I think it's like, it was, for me, it really kind of gave me a sense of family and a sense of community, that someone understood the experiences that I had been having.
I love that, because it was funny, like when I finished the first draft and it was only going to be one book and I didn't realize that I was having triplets. I think this is what happens to many women, I guess. They think they're carrying one baby and they're having triplets. But I was like, do I really want to do this? And my co-author is the universe, and because there's so much universal wisdom, and I've had so many people who've experienced the book say, I was reading and I was nodding my head, or I felt less alone. And so you sharing that is really important. And I think the reason why we're creating the virtual book clubs for each one of the three books is so important, because it allows you not only to have that inner dialogue and do your inner work, but also have a community of other people that you can talk about what's in there. Because I know for me, when I started this journey, I felt very alone.
Mm-hmm.
And, as Tim and I don't remember how exactly we met. I think the latest story is it was in an elevator or something. But, I think we met millions of years ago and agreed to come back here and do this together. And being able to find each other is really important. And experiencing a book is something that's very individual, but then being able to talk what's on it and bring it to life is what I'm hoping the book club will help people do. As you could tell, I no longer live in British Columbia where it's quiet and there are bears. Now there are sirens all the time in city life. So I can't control that. And that's what I love about life is just the organic nature of it. And so I met Linda and we really connected heart to heart. And then one day she told me that there's this incredible woman that I have to meet. And got connected to Carol. And so delighted to have you here, Carol, and all the work that you're doing in the world and the transformation. And I'm so excited that you're also, your story and Tim's story are both in the third book. Because it's about connecting heart to heart. So love to hear a little bit of your perspective, Carol, with the books and where you see it. And it's great. One of Carol's guided meditations, Carol has one of the most beautiful voices. And one of her guided meditations is part of the first book club to help people get centered and get grounded and get connected to the heart. So thank you for that, Carol.
Oh, my pleasure. It was wonderful to be able to offer that up, and thank you for asking me to be able to provide that. And I must say, it was such a delight when I first met you and interviewed you, and just and how you shared your story and everything that you have been through really resonated with me. And I saw a lot of myself in you. And I wish that I had had the books that you have written at a time in my life where I made some significant changes. And that was, many years ago. And after having been in the corporate world for better than 20 years, it takes a lot of deep soul searching and a lot of courage to make shifts and changes in our lives. And I was at a point in my life where I was really run down, burned out, and chasing the corporate ladder, and for no real good reason. And finding myself, in a situation, a health situation that really was a big wake-up call for me. And your books just really resonate, and particularly the third book, because I think it's important for us to be impeccable in terms of how we take care of ourselves. And not only just ourselves, but one another and the planet, and to come to understand what it really means to come from a heart-centered focus and place, and to live in a heart-centered world. Because as we know right now, this is a very troubling, difficult world to live in. But we create our own reality. And the stories that you have shared in your books are just incredible. Really touched my heart, and it really is about discovering the power within us, because we all need to stand in our own power, and we need to look within and follow our own internal guidance system for what feels right for us, and not allow the media or others or society's norms or rules to dictate how we live our lives, because obviously that's not getting us anywhere these days, and that's why we're in the state that we're in within the world. And getting back to, we create our own reality. I mean, it truly is the case. So what we think, how we feel, how we relate to one another, how we interact, how we uproot some of the deep conditioning within us, and we can do it, and it's time to do it, and we can help one another. And the work that and the collaboration that you have here with High Tide, I think, is going to be phenomenal in terms of how it's going to actively shift people's lives, shift their perspective, shift their mindset, shift the way that they feel and live from their heart. There's so much opportunity here for us to come together. And even in this community that you're creating with Heart Pickings is going to be a fantastic opportunity to do things in a different way. And I'm just excited to be a part of it. And I think what excites me the most is that it's getting back to what we were all sharing earlier, was that we're not alone. And sometimes you feel like you're alone and you're on this path by yourself, but you're not. And when we come together and we help one another and we gain different perspectives and insights, each and every time I interact with each of you, I learn something new. Not just something new about you, but something new about me, and how I might perceive things. And so it opens doors for us. And that's very exciting for me. And I'm just so thrilled to be a part of this.
Yeah, and thank you, Carol. And it's such an open invitation of how we connect heart to heart, and what's possible in a very short time as well, of like being able to build community and understand what it is. And another partner in play that I have is Donna, and I really love what you're bringing into the world, Donna, and would love for you to share a little bit of your experiences with the book as well from your perspective.
Yeah, I come from a little bit of a different perspective because I'm actually working to kind of bring these out into the world. I'm your doula. And over the last 2 years, I've gone through a pretty serious health issue. And as soon as I started to feel better, I took on this massive client that I knew it was going to challenge me in ways I didn't even know how it was going to challenge me. And I'm just at the tail end of this, and you have patiently waited for me for months because I was just so consumed with this client. And they did challenge me and made me, the process of working with them made me go through and heal tremendous things that I had not healed in the past. And as I started to go through the books, and I read them in a different way because I'm reading them to repurpose them. So I'm reading them in blocks of text, and I'm thinking, okay, like how many tweets can I get out of this? And is this a blog post? Is this an interview? And that's how I read books, and that's how I think of them, because I'm upcycling them into other things. And as I'm doing this, I'm seeing this mapping of what is going on in my life, and the solutions and the resources and the perspectives that are in the book are mapping like this enormous trajectory that I'm going through personally and professionally. And it's a real fine line between personal and professional, because I'm me. There's no BS around it. I'm just me in my life, in my work, in what I do, and what I believe in. I'm just one person. And it's just phenomenal. I mean, like I have been a random reader. And I mean, like, one of the first things that I did was I just opened the book, and I opened to page 3 of the first book, and I read, it starts with journeying within ourselves, exploring how we can begin living as creators while remembering how to fully connect with others in community with a vivid imagination, strength of conviction, the curiosity of an adventurer, and the spark of pure, authentic love. Now, I'm 57 years old. One of the things I didn't realize until this last year is that I'm incredibly creative. And that spoke to me, that validated. It's like the books were validating everything that I was going through. And my brother is a photographer. He's incredibly talented, and he was the creative one. And it was like, we're only allowed one creative one in the family. So creative was ruled out for me from a very early age. But I realized that what I do in my work is incredibly creative, because I can take these 3 books and turn this into years of marketing, but not like pushy, shove down your throat marketing where this is just landing in front of the right people at the right moment, because it's exactly what they need, and it's very organic and it's very natural. And I didn't really, until this last year and a half, I didn't really realize how special that was, and how totally in alignment this is with the work that the triplets are bringing into the world. And I'm really honored and happy to be part of it.
As I am with everyone here and everybody who experiences it, because, having lived in a rainforest, I learned that nature doesn't rush. And, I was so programmed and brought up to achieve and to be successful and all this stuff. And I stepped back and said, wait a second, where do I fit in all to this? And, recently I had a conversation with a woman that works with kids, and she didn't have a voice as a kid, and now she's spending her whole life giving voices to children, and wanting to live in a world where kids saw their future as who they were and what they were about, and it was a constant ability to learn, not just this piece. And I can't remember in which one of the triplets talks about the fact that, when I discovered there's only life, and there's no destination, everything shifted. And even in putting together this conversation, which I want to open up, and I also I know Tim, you have to leave for chemo soon, so I want to make sure that we hear from you, kind of your experiences of where you're at and what you want to share about where you think we're headed, even with everything that you're going on in your life right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's easy to think you got a 10-year, 20-year plan until you hear the words you have cancer and you have 3 to 5 years to live. Kind of puts things in perspective for you pretty quick. But what I think the biggest lesson for me right after I heard that was processing it internally. And I was never in a position, and I think it's the years of work that I've done internally on myself, with myself, that didn't make me ever get in a position of, why did this happen to me? How could this have happened to me? It was very much an acceptance of, here's what I have, what do I need to do? And that was so comforting, because it didn't put me in a place where in the past I would be stuck, because I'd want answers to those questions that didn't have any answers. And so I was able to move forward, but I was very conflicted about, who did I want to tell about this? Who did I want to share this with? I didn't want to share it on Facebook or on Twitter, because I hadn't told my family yet. And, what am I going to do? And it quickly became one of these things where I just said, it's not natural for me. It's not part of who I am if I keep this inside. And so it quickly became a decision that I had to tell all my family members. I shared my story in a post that, got a lot of reaction. At that point, I had a lot of questions and I was looking for answers. And I had thousands of people that came to me presenting different answers for me. And it was overwhelming, to say the least. But what I was able to do, and I can sit here today, 8 months later, and say that I have much more confidence in this, because I've done my own research. I've done my own, asking of questions. I've ruled out things that I know aren't for me, and then I found things that are for me. But some things that I think are for me don't work for my condition that I have. And so it's like really narrowing down what is the best thing for me, the healthiest thing for me to be able to do. And so that you know, that education that I've gone through in the last 8 months is like something that I want to share with other people, regardless of if you get cancer or anything else in your life. It's question everything, because what you're being told by the experts that's their expertise with their past experience. It's not you. And so sometimes asking those tough questions to that expert, searching out other people that you can get second, third, fourth, and fifth opinions from, going to groups that are supportive and give you information, or nonprofits that have a ton of resources available for you, so that you can get facts that you can then present to, the expert that's telling you one thing, and question it. Question why they're saying this, and present other options that you have researched and get their opinion on it. But don't leave their opinion as the only one. Go and get others. And so sharing that and instilling that in other people, I think, whether it comes from, your health, whether it comes from your physical health, whether it comes from your financial health, whether it comes from a job you're in, creating a business, whatever it is don't always look at there's one way. There's your way, and there's multiple ways that you can look at this. And I think the other thing is that, what this has taught me too, and it's the biggest thing that I see from especially some of these cancer groups I'm in, is advocating for yourself, because nobody is going to advocate for you. I'm very fortunate right now that I have a surgeon who his team has been very good at advocating on my behalf with my oncology team, but it's a rare thing to find. And every other instance that I can talk about through my whole journey in these 8 months has been me and my wife advocating for us instead of having somebody advocate for us. And so it's not about waiting for somebody to do it for you. It's about doing it yourself. And, so many people think that there's not other options because there's only one oncologist in their small town that they live in. There's only one, their local hospital doesn't do transplants or doesn't do this type of procedure. And the whole thing about it is, just because you're in one location, if your health is this important to you, you don't have to be location bound. You can go other places. There's resources to help you travel to other places. There's places that will put you up. And so it's educating people that, don't think you're stuck with one option because of where you're located. And so that education and the advocacy, I think, are two big things. But I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the fact that I opened up about this, the fact that I shared this has really taught me. I've always been a giver most of my life. And the one thing that I've learned about this is, to be a true giver, you need to learn how to receive openly. And I have been blessed in the last 8 months with hearing things that people normally only say at people's funerals, and the impact that I've had in their lives. And that just even fills me up so much more that I want to create more of an impact in other people's lives. But that never would happen if I just stayed in the giving mode, because I've learned this a long time ago, but I didn't learn it personally until I went through this, is giving and receiving are two sides of the same coin, and you can't give without receiving.
Yeah. Wow. And we're so blessed with you, Tim, because, when I think about what you have given us, like, I feel like your book is a living book. And, if we take the conversations that even are online and are available with you, they're different forms of books being written that aren't, let's say, in a paper way of all the lessons and all of what's possible. And I think this is a great example of stepping into your power, because I think this is the time for many of us. I mean, if you look at the physical world right now, there's a lot of suffering, there's a lot of misery, but we don't have to live this way. And when you do start questioning things, I talked to my mom earlier today, and she asked me, "How's Tim doing?" And I said, his attitude. I mean, his attitude is contagious, and he's I gave her some of the details, and she was just so happy to hear that, and she knows like how important you are to me and many other people. And I just love the sense of community that we're redefining. I mean, this is the thing, is like a lot of what we've known, a lot of what we've accepted, we can let go, so we can have these healthy conversations, these healthy relationships, more trust emerge. And Linda, you really were with me as I was moving into neutrality. And not, it really resonates with a lot of what Carol, you said, and I just want to open this now to conversation. So just jump in here and have it organically. And we'll probably talk over each other at some point, because that's what happens when we're organic. But it was really interesting, because Linda was telling me about neutrality, and I always had this other conception and definition of it. But once I understood that in the world that I'm going into, there are no sides, because I no longer live in wanting to be a good girl or a bad girl, or being right or being wrong. And, I found that a lot of times when people started arguing with me, and I was just exhausted, and I would just look at them and I'd say, you know what? You're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. And they look at me like, you don't believe that. I said, now that you're right, what are we going to do about it? And I think that's the step in history that we're in, that it's no longer about being the winner or being the loser, but looking at what's possible in community and seeing what's possible. Like all the people, like I was crying when I saw the support that Tim was getting. It was unbelievable. And I think one of the first things I said to you, Tim, was like, wow, most people don't hear about this until they're gone. And so what a blessing it is to be here. So what are some of your thoughts? Anyone?
Well, I just have to say, I think that I love the concept of neutrality, and I think that we need to really focus on that, because if we don't, then we're just going to continue down this path that we're going down within the world. And I want to say that, Tim, you are just such an inspiration. Just what you have been through, and I love what you were saying about it is. I have been the same way. I have always been a giver and had a really tough time receiving, and it wasn't until I left corporate, highly successful in corporate, and then I started really judging myself after that time frame, because I was really trying to find my direction, and I found myself, in a situation several times where I needed to receive. I needed to, because I'm not Superwoman, or Wonder Woman, and I used to kind of feel like I needed to be that way, and we don't need to be that way. And I think there's just a lot to be said for having that balance, because if we're constantly giving, we're not nourishing and nurturing ourselves, and that's what the world needs right now. We need to nurture and nourish one another, as opposed to the things that are pulling people down, and so those are the things that we need to really, really keep in mind. And I love this concept of neutrality. So I think that's a great way to move forward.
I mean, I think it's interesting that all of us come from a sort of senior corporate background, and I think we're all really good at what we did when we were there. I mean, for me, and probably for all of you, the problem with that for me was corporations didn't really understand or respect my humanity, and it was really important for me to be able to be who I was as an individual and not be pushed into a specific role that I felt I was not being cared for. So, having left that and moved into a different world, I mean, a big part of my journey has been neutrality, because we we all have these social conditionings, and our social conditionings basically are, our traumas and our belief systems that kind of merge together and create this thing that we believe in that may or may not be true. And when I was, I was taking care of my mother for 9 years. She needed 24/7 care. It was a very difficult time in my life. And, I just didn't know things could get that scary and that dark. And I really did feel alone. And sometimes when I would be feeling completely triggered by the experience, I started looking at I would look at my one hand. I look at, for some reason, I picked my right hand. I said, is this true? Am I feeling this burdened and fearful? Is what I'm feeling true for the moment? And then I'd sit and I'd listen, and I'd realize that a lot of what I was feeling was not true for the moment. It was basically something I was pulling from my past that was triggering me and forcing me to overreact to the experience. So I would calm myself down, and then I would look at my other hand and I would say, okay, so what is true? And what would be, and I would look at, okay, I'm in a beautiful place, or whatever was true that was positive, I would remind myself. And if I was in such a dark place that I could not find what was good at the moment, I would think of what I'm grateful for. And there is always something for you to be grateful for, even if it's a beautiful day, a bird you see, a friend that calls you, there's something. And I would put all of my energy into looking at that thing that is good. And I'd say, that's what's true right now. And once I put my energy into that thing that is true, that's when you put yourself into a state of neutrality. And it's amazing how the thing that you think was so scary and so bad can just evaporate, or it can lessen up so that you're not reacting to it in such a traumatic way. Because most of our traumas, we basically aren't in touch with because they're unconscious. So we end up bringing them up and spitting them at other people in hatreds and the other and what's right and wrong, when really it's all within us. And if we're able to take a look at that, we can resolve so much of our own struggle and trauma and not have to direct it towards other people. And I think that's, working with your books, Ayelet, were really important, because they have you look at yourself. And with all the external chatter going on around us and social media and all the things that are coming in at us and keeping our attention occupied, most of us don't have a lot of time to ourselves to sit and know who we truly are. So sometimes we need things. And I think your books actually allow people to sit with themselves in a little quiet space and see themselves bouncing around in there. And I think this is really important. And then, hopefully what they do is they're able to speak to other people about their experience. And that's where the real power comes, when you're able to be vulnerable from what you're feeling yourself and share that with someone else, and not get judgment back, because we're such a judgmental world right now, but not get judgment back, but get acceptance back. And that vulnerability becomes strength for everyone involved. And the three triplets all do that in different ways. So it's been a really great experience.
It's so interesting to feel like we're living it. I mean, that's the thing, is like, I had a dear friend when I was living in British Columbia, somebody that, I really connected with because of the books. And her story is in the third book as well. And she keeps telling me that the books changed her life. And I keep telling her that she changed her life. Mm-hmm. And it's like when we meet each other, and some people, I had somebody come over and he was visiting his brother, and he said to me, I started reading your book, and then I got like through a third of it, and I looked at him and I said, why are you reading this book? You're like a James Patterson guy. Like, you don't want to question stuff. And he thought like he would insult me. And I was like, you can't insult me on this, because it's about you. It's not about me. It's about what resonates with you and what doesn't resonate with you. And just that we're having this conversation, that's the impact of the book. But I was just like, I was so curious. And, we got into this conversation. He was like, oh, well, I just wanted to know more about you, because, and I said, Yeah, but you know, these and I've had people tell me before when I even write in the books, these books aren't for everyone because it's really about like when you're ready for something and you know what we talked about earlier, that there's no prescription, that there's no formula. And it's also like for me, it's not age specific. It's for all ages, meeting you where you're at and when I was, you know, when I started my journey, I kept looking for people and books and oh my God, did I go into some crazy rabbit holes and some crazy places. And I'm so glad I did. But then I felt like a responsibility. I think Toni Morrison says, like, if there's a book that you need that hasn't been written, you know, write it. And that's kind of like, to me, we're creating living systems for a healthy world because the book club helps you kind of move into that next step of applying it to yourself, or even if you just want your own kind of ability to connect with other people and have conversations. But in a world where more people are feeling alone, and then all of us are involved in building the platform called Heart Pickings, which is the epilogue in the third book, where we get to have these heart-to-heart conversations. And it's been an amazing journey, an amazing experience, because we're creating it in a way of something that we need. And we're really following a lot of what's in the second book about trekking into the unknown, because we do like predictability. We do like to know, well, when you get to the site, what am I going to do? And you're like, well, what do you want to do? What if you had a blank canvas? What is it that's possible? And I find that like that part of the conversation is so important, because if we start asking kids and ourselves different questions and we have different expectations, our ability to trek into the unknown, to let go, because, you know, I think it was Seth Godin. I went to one of his sessions after I fired myself from the corporate world, and he started to talk about like how being safe is risky. And it was a limiting belief that I hung on to, like, let's be safe, like be safe. And I'm like, what are we safe from? You know, that safety, you know, there's all these false safety nets where you're really not safe. And you're kind of thinking like, you know, I love the fact that I invited everybody to this conversation, and everybody I invited showed up, and there wasn't like, here's the expectations and here's the agenda and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. Because if we're not living what's possible, what are we doing?
I think this is a great example right here and now. We are actually living out what the principles that you have in your book, your books basically. And they're a great template and a blueprint for us, each of us, to look inside ourselves and explore what's inside us, as opposed to relying on the outside world, the external world, to validate everything that we need to do, every step that we take in our lives. And I mean, for years, I felt like I needed that external validation. And finally, I just had reached a point where I just had enough. You know, this is just too much pressure, too much weight to carry. I need to let that weight go. And then what I found happening was things started coming together for me. My health improved, my mindset improved. I did more meditation. I focused more on my own self-care. I focused more on what was important to me, not at the exclusion of others in my life, but obviously we have to take care of ourselves first before we can, you know, take care of others. And the books have really, even though I've asked a lot of questions over the years, you have some really deep soul searching questions, which are I think poignant and very important for everyone to really consider. And that's why I'm just so excited about what you're bringing to the world, because it's alive, and people need to know that they have to tap deep inside within themselves. You can't find the answers externally, because you're just going to be living someone else's thoughts or dreams or reality. You got to create your own reality.
And be based in, for me, like, we were on a call the other day working on heart pickings, and Romanos, who's part of our core team, started to talk about TLC, and he defined it as trust, love, and connection. And it's become part of the founding values of what we're doing. I don't even remember what TLC was before trust, love, and connection. I just love that ability to look at it, and also to, Linda, you do a lot around frequency and connection and vibrations, and that ability to have that trust, love, and connection becomes really important. But it starts within us, and it's not in the kind of like hokey way of, I think the biggest reason we're all here is to do our work. There's no one on this planet who doesn't have some trauma or some wound. And it's fascinating how we have a health crisis. And then we kind of look at things and kind of say, hang on a sec, what is it that we're really here to do? And I think as each one of us gets clearer on why we're here and what play we want to have, like, I don't want to work anymore, I just want to play. and being able to play, like, I just feel like we've played. I don't even, like, I'm looking at the time going, oh wow, because it feels so light, it feels so flow, and that ability to do it and create a healthy language for all of us to thrive. Like, I want to see less suffering in the world, and more play, and more fun. And actually, like what you just said, Carol, like, I went out for dinner last night. I won't get into the details, but there was a group of women there, 11 women, and they were just loving life, and their energy was just so amazing to be around, and it kind of impacted the whole kind of place we were at. And they came by and started conversation, and you forgot like what was going on in the outside world with all the fear. And these are the moments that we're able to create when we fully show up in our lives, and it's just so exciting.
Well, TLC is tender loving care.
Thank you.
So, and I think that is exactly what, I think all of us here are, that's what we want to move into the world. I mean, we've, all gone through so much struggle and difficulty and division that I know that those of us that are on this path or journey or whatever you want to call it, as more and more people realize that the division is not going to work for us long term, and that we actually have more in common than we have differences. And actually, our differences is what makes life so interesting. And by applying, tender loving care to ourselves and to each experience and to the other, who basically the other is just us. I mean, it's just a different version of us. We can really change the sort of trajectory of where we seem to be going. I mean, I have a lot of optimism for the future. I have a little bit of fear about the current situation, but I think that we're just kind of, I think at this point we are all kind of, trekking into the unknown and trying to figure out how do we get into this place. And all these things that we didn't know about ourselves are all coming up to be seen so they can be felt. It's really important, I think, to feel your emotions. I mean, we bury them down when we're kids and they don't usually come out, and they turn into all kinds of monsters for us to deal with. But if we actually feel them, they kind of just drift away. And I think that, by the people that are on this call and in our, sort of growing community at large are all trying to deal with their own stuff and help each other see each other and give each other all the tender loving care. And the books are there just to help guide and to help you see yourself in the way that is true to you. But it's been an interesting journey, I think, for all of us. And I hope that other people, kind of begin to realize that there's more to life than the fear and the division, and realize that once we put some tender loving care attached to everything, that we're going to have a better world, and you'll just be happier.
I just so my heart's like going crazy, and I was brought up always here in the mind, and that alignment and balance between the mind and the heart makes me so happy, because I think you need both. I think you need just to really look at how do you become healthy, mind, body, and spirit, and it's such an opportunity to do it, and to have like open conversations and be vulnerable and connect heart to heart, which many of us don't even know what that means. But there's this kind of frequency and vibration of when you do, and when you kind of meet people that you feel that you can go create with, and you could go play with, and there's so much hope in the world right now. I would love to invite anyone who is experiencing this to check out the virtual book club, to check out the books. Donna and Liam have created an amazing video that goes into the specifics about the book club. I don't think I want to show it right now, but it's available, and Donna has posted links here as well of how you can access things. And I want you to be free to connect, have conversation, reach out to any of us, and I'd love to close this live conversation, even if you're watching a recording of it. So it is evergreen. If each one of us can kind of share, I just shared kind of my hope and my excitement for the world, but also how can people contact and reach you? What's the one thing you want to share with people right now at this moment about you and your life and your journey?
Okay, I'll start. Well, I mean, I believe that the answers lie in the heart, and as everyone here, we are, sort of heart-based, and I'd like anyone to who is going through a difficult time, struggling through challenges that they didn't expect to happen. I also think we're all becoming something unexpected, and I encourage everyone to reach out to, if not one of us, someone that you're close to, someone that you'd like to connect with and share your story with. I think we have to start sharing our stories with each other and be open to it. My name is Linda Palio. I have a book out called Trusting the Currents, and I'm available for a conversation if anyone needs to talk about anything. Thanks.
And I'll go ahead and add to that. Anyone who really wants to connect with their heart, take the time to be quiet and go within and just be still. And if you're struggling with something, just, ask the question, whatever it is that you're struggling with. And be patient with yourself. Give yourself some time to listen and feel what is coming through. You may have images, it may be a thought, it could be feelings, it could be colors, it could be textures, and really pay attention to your body and how your body is reacting. Here's just a couple of examples. If your body is expanding and it's feeling lighter and feeling alive and more vibrant, then that will tell you that that's the answer for you. If you're feeling constricted, tight, tense, then maybe that's not the direction you need to go. So if there's a burning question or something you're really trying to get in touch with, just listen to your heart, because your heart never lies. And it is a direct portal to a higher consciousness, that higher mind, whatever you want to think of it, God. It is that direct portal, and it will give you the answers. You just have to be patient with yourself and trust yourself. And I'm happy to have a conversation around that to help anyone in any way. It's Carol Chapman, and you can reach me at heartsriseup.com.
and Carol offers beautiful podcasts. She's a fantastic interviewer. Both Linda and I and Tim have been on her podcast. Funny how that happens when you're in. And her guided meditations are fantastic as well. So what I love is that it's not just about my books. It's about how we come together and bringing Linda's book to life, because her book is so timely right now, Trusting the Currents, for what people are going through. It's just an amazing opportunity to really see how we can weave together, because we don't really know how to. So this is all about trekking into the unknown, discovering our wonder and trusting our hearts. And I will let Donna close it off for us.
What has just been the truth in my life and in my work, and has been recognized in your books, is that it takes a village. We can't do this together, and everybody's experiences become new, joined, experiences, and they change and morph into different things. And when we do share our stories and our experiences, our knowledge, our expertise, and we do it in a way that is coming from the heart as opposed to the liver, where some things come from, we create the possibilities, and when somebody else experiences that or sees that, they see it through their own lens, through their own eyes. And this is what I have been trying to do in my work for the last 15 years. And with every evolution, it gets closer and closer and closer, but it really feels true now, and it really feels like there is the possibility to create a new way of telling stories, sharing stories, connecting people through shared experience, through marketing that doesn't suck, for lack of a better term. And the mission behind the marketing is to be the glue that holds this all together, and to be the platform where these stories can be shared and can just organically land in the right places. And that's what I've seen for years. And I just really feel it, just coming true now.
Thank you. Well, thank you, everyone. And also feel free to reach out to Tim. Tim's an amazing, amazing soul. He's one of the best connectors I've ever met in my life. And it comes from the heart. So check out what he's creating in the world right now and reach out to him as well. And my dream is that we collectively reach millions and millions of people who are ready to really see that everything is here on this beautiful planet that we live on, and respect ourselves, respect our lives, and connect like never before, and have fun, have lightness, have an ability to really create what is possible on the edges, and take the first step. It's not radical, we can each have the ability to take the first step, to put our toe in the water and kind of see what we like and what we don't like. Just remember that that's what we were like when we were kids. We would fall off the bike and we would scratch our knees, but then we would get on the bike again and we would go explore further, and we might fall off again, but that's the beauty of where we're at. So I want to thank you for being here, and looking forward to many, 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 maybe millions and billions and trillions of conversations and creations that we spark and ripple as we trust the currents and rise up with our hearts and say, fuck it, or whatever words you want to use when something in your life no longer serves you, so you can let go and write your beautiful stories. Thank you so much.